Welcome back, children, to the drama Merchant of Venice, Act 1, Scene 1. In the last episode, it is concluded that Antonio says that he considers all the world as a stage and every man is an actor on the stage. And Graciano carries on the metaphor of Antonio. While Antonio concludes, he says that on the stage of life he has to play the part of a sad man. And Antonio carries on this, Graciano carries on this metaphor of Antonio, and he says that he has to play the part of a clown. Let me play the fool. With mirth and laughter, let all wrinkles come, and let my liver rather heat with wine than my heart cool with mortifying groans. Why should a man whose blood is warm within sit like his grandsire cut in alabaster, sleep when he wakes and creep into the jaundice by being peevish? I tell thee what, Antonio, I love thee, and it is my love that speaks. See, Graciano says that he preferred to play the clown, and he says, let me remain mirthful. Mirthful means joyful and laughing till when the wrinkles of old age come to me. Until I am old, I will remain joyful and may rather heat my body with wine than cool my spirits with mournful groans. Mournful groans, mortifying groans, means sorrowful. And he says that why do I behave like an old man while I am young? Why should a man with warm blood in his veins sit like a statue of his grandfather, carved out of white marble? See, he says, sit like his grandsire. Grandsire means grandfather. Cut in alabaster. Alabaster means white marble. Why should a young man like me sit like my grandfather? When I am young, I will be mirthful. Sleep when he wakes and creep into the jaundice. It is supposed that jaundice was caused by the mental worry, by being peevish. Peevish, ill-tempered. I tell thee means you. I tell thee what, Antonio, I love thee. I say all these things. Graciano says that he says all these things to Antonio because of his love to him, and it is my love that speaks. And it is because of his love, he allowed to Antonio, he told all these things to him. Graciano gives the example of a warm-blooded young man who represses his spirits and forces himself to stillness till he looks like the marble image of his grandfather. He does so to advise Antonio not to remain in melancholy. He is likely to be infected with jaundice due to his bad temper. Come to the next lines. There are a sort of men whose visages means face or countenance or appearance, do cream and mantle like a standing pond. Standing pond means stagnant, dirty pool. And do a willful stillness entertain. Willful stillness here means deliberate silence, with purpose to be dressed in an opinion of wisdom, gravity, profound conceit. Some men, he says, some men overcast their faces with a pale expression, as unchanging as the cream that foams on the surface of the stagnant of milk, and as the scum that forms on the surface of a stagnant pool. See, watch the phrase, do a willful stillness entertain. It means that maintain an obstinate silence, not to disturb the solemnity of their faces. And he continues to say that, let me tell you, Antonio, this, Antonio, I love you, and it is my love that makes me speak. There is a certain type of man with face covered over a stagnant pool is covered with slime and other things. Slime means mud or any dirt. Such a man maintains a deliberate silence with the idea of earning reputation for wisdom, serious gravity, and profound thought. Of wisdom, gravity, profound conceit, as who should say, I am Sir Oracle. Oracle is considered to be as the messenger of God. And when I open my lips, op means open, let no dog bark. It is just as if they said, I am the fountain of wisdom. Oracle is considered to be as the messenger of God, and he considered himself as the fountain of wisdom. And when I speak, and he felt that when he speak, let others keep silent. And he says, Graciano says, oh Antonio, I know that kind of men. They get a reputation for wisdom. How do they get a reputation for wisdom? By merely keeping quiet, when I am certain that if they did speak, those who heard them would incur damnation in hell for the sin of calling their brothers fools. Let me read the dramatic part. Oh my Antonio, I do know that therefore only a reputed voice for saying nothing, when I am very sure if they should speak would almost damn those ears, which hearing them would call their brothers fools. I will tell thee more of this another time, but fish not with this melancholy bait. For this fool gudgeon, this opinion, come good Lorenzo, fare ye well a while. I will end my exhortation after dinner. Exhortation is good advice. Graciano says that he knows that kind of men. Which kind of men? The men who behaves like an oracle, and they get a reputation for wisdom. How? By merely keeping quiet, when I am certain that if they did speak. Graciano says that it is certain for him that if they happen to speak, those who heard them would incur damnation, means obtain punishment. Incur damnation means they would obtain punishment in hell for the sin of calling their brothers fools. I shall speak further of this at another time. But do not put out this bait of melancholy silence. Bait means temptation. In order to catch such a cheap fish as popularity. Come, good Lorenzo. Goodbye in the meantime. I shall finish my good advice to you after dinner. See, as the angler uses a bait to catch a fish, such persons use melancholy as a bait to catch the cheap popularity. That is the opinion of Graciano about the oracle, or the persons who behaves like an oracle. Graciano speaks about the people who try to obtain a reputation for wisdom, seriousness, and deep thought by remaining silent. Such people mean to say that they speak with authority of the Greek oracle, and they alone are infallible in their utterances. When they speak, others should keep quiet. Answer oracle means I speak with the authority of the Greek oracle. The Greek oracles made known the willness of gods and were received all without questions. See, let no dog bark means let no one speak. It refers to the attitude of those wise men who consider themselves as the fountain of wisdom and want that when they speak, others would remain silent. See, at the end of the speech, Graciano advises Antonio not to be one of those who try to gain a reputation for wisdom by being silent. He further tells Antonio not to use melancholy as a bait to win the reputation of wisdom and cheap popularity, which is like a worthless cheap fish, a gudgeon. Then Lorenzo says, well, we will leave you then till dinner time. I must be one of those dumb wise men. Lorenzo says that he is going to live till dinner time and he chooses to be the silent wise man because Graciano never allows him to speak. Graciano, well, keep me company but 2 years more. More means more. Thou shalt not know the sound of thine own tongue. Graciano says, if you only remain in my company for 2 years more, you will have forgotten the sound of your own voice. Then we can understand the talkativeness of Graciano. Antonio, farewell. I will grow a talker for this gear. I shall become a talker after this advice. Antonio says that after the advice of Graciano, he became talkative. Graciano, thanks I faith, for silence is only commendable in a neat's tongue dried and a maid not vendible. Thanks indeed, for silence is only to be praised in a dried ox tongue or a girl who has no chance in the marriage market. Antonio, is that anything now? Do you think that is the truth? And Bassanio answers, and Graciano and Lorenzo has left the scene and now Bassanio is there, and Bassanio answers, Graciano speaks an infinite deal of nothing, more than any man in all Venice. His reasons are as 2 grains of wheat hid in 2 bushels of chaff. Chaff means husk. 2 bushels of chaff. You shall seek all they means before you find them, and when you have them, they are not worth the search. Bassanio says that Graciano gives out much idle talk, more than any other man in all Venice. His speech consists of about 2 grains of good sense, hidden in 2 bushels of nonsense. You may search all day till you find them. When you do find them, you discover that they were not worth the search. In short, Bassanio says about the talkative nature of Graciano, and it is his talk is meaningless. Antonio, well, tell me now that what lady is the saint to whom you swore a secret pilgrimage that you today promised to tell me of? Antonio says that Antonio told Bassanio that tell him now who the lady is, who is the lady is to whom you have vowed you will go on a secret pilgrimage. You promised to tell me about her today. Antonio says to Bassanio that he has promised to tell him about the lady, his lady love. Bassanio, it is not unknown to you, Antonio, how much I have disabled mine estate by something showing a more swelling pot than my faint means would grant continuance, nor do I now make more to be abridged from such a noble rate, but my chief care is to come fairly off from the great depths, wherein my time something too prodigal means extravagant, hath left me gage to you, Antonio. Gage means engaged, involved. To you, Antonio, I owe the most in money and in love, and from your love I have a warranty to unburden all my plots and purposes, how to get clear of all the debts I owe. Unburden means reveal. Bassanio says, you are aware, Antonio, how I have spent my means by keeping up a more fashionable standard than my modest income will allow me to continue. Bassanio says that he knows, Antonio knows that Bassanio has led an extravagant life. I do not complain, Bassanio do not complain at having to drop this lordly style of his living, but my main desire is to come honorably out of the great depths in which my extravagant expenditure has landed me. This expenditure has landed him in his debt, and he wants to get out of it. I am obliged most to you, Antonio, both in money and in love. Your friendship gives me sufficient confidence to reveal all my plans and intentions to you, by which I hope to clear off all the debts I owe. Then Antonio says, I pray you, good Bassanio, let me know it, and if it stand as you yourself still do, within the eye of honor be assured, my purse, my person, my extremest means all the resources, lie all unlocked to your occasions need. Let me know it all, good Bassanio. If your scheme is like yourself, means perfectly honorable. If your plan is perfectly honorable like you may be sure that my money, my body, and my utmost resources will all be placed at your disposal. Here we can understand the friendship between the bond between Bassanio and Antonio. In my school days, when I had lost one shaft arrow, I shot his fellow, means another arrow. His fellow means a similar arrow of the same flight. Bassanio says, in his school days, when he had lost an arrow, he used to shoot another in the same direction. Of same flight, he used to send in the same direction. For what? The same way, with more advice watch the other forth, and by adventuring both, I oft found both. I earned this childhood proof. See, I will send another arrow in the same direction. For what? And I should be very careful. But keeping more careful to watch in order to find the first. Why do I send the second arrow to the same direction? In order to find the lost arrow. By risking a second arrow, I often recovered both. I mention this childhood's illustration. It is for what? Look at the dramatic part. Because what follows is pure innocence. I owe you much, and like a willful youth, that which I owe is lost. But if you please to shoot another arrow, that self way which you did shoot the first, I do not doubt, as I will watch the aim, or to find both, or bring you latter hazard back again and thankfully rest debtor for the first. By risking a second arrow, I often recovered both. I mentioned this childhood's illustration because what I have to propose now is quite innocent. I owe much to you, and like a self-willed young man, I have lost whatever I got from you. But if you care to send another loan in the same direction to search for the first loan, then I do not doubt that I shall watch so carefully that I shall recover both for you. I shall at any rate be able to bring back your second loan and remain your grateful debtor for the original one. See, and Bassanio and Antonio now are in a street in Venice, and earlier Antonio asked Bassanio to tell him about his plans, and he adds that if Bassanio's plan is honorable as him, he then promises him everything that he has: money, influence, personal help, and utmost resources. And Bassanio later says that at any rate he could pay the second loan and remain his grateful debtor for the first. Earlier, Bassanio confesses to Antonio that he has spent his wealth by having a more lordly way of living than his moderate income allowed him. Therefore, he has incurred heavy debts because of his youth and extravagance. This proves that Bassanio is a spendthrift. Bassanio says that when he was a boy at school and he lost one of his arrows while shooting, he would shoot another arrow in the same direction. Thus, by risking the second, he often regained both arrows. Bassanio proposes to pay back his previous loan as well as the present loan by carefully managing the expenditure of his second loan amount. Antonio: you know me well, and herein spend but time to whine about my love with circumstance, and out of doubt you do me now more wrong in making question of my uttermost means extreme efforts, than if you had made waste of all I have. Then do but say to me what I should do, that in your knowledge may by me be done, and I am pressed unto it. Pressed unto it means engaged to do it, and or drawn to your help. And if you had made waste of all I had, then do but say to me what I should do, that in your knowledge may by me be done, and I am pressed unto it, therefore speak. Antonio says, you know me well, means Bassanio know him so well that you only waste time by appealing to my love with indirect talk. Certainly you wrong me more by doubting my utmost readiness to help you than you would do by squandering means spending all that I possess. You have only to tell me what you want me to do. If you know that I am able to do it, and already I shall feel engaged to do it, speak out. And Bassanio says, in Belmont is Bassanio here reveals about his lady love to Antonio. Bassanio says, in Belmont is a lady richly left, and she is fair and fairer than that word of wondrous virtues. Sometimes from her eyes I did receive fair speechless message. Fair speechless message means glances which are silent messages of love. Her name is Portia, nothing undervalued. Nothing undervalued means in no way inferior to Cato's daughter, Brutus Portia. This Portia is another Portia, not the Portia of Belmont. Nor is the wide world ignorant of her worth, for the four winds blow in from every coast, renowned suitors, and her sunny locks hang on her temples like a golden fleece. Temples means forehead, which makes her seat of Belmont Colchestran, and many Jasons come in quest of her. Oh, my Antonio, had I but the means to hold a rival place with one of them. I have a mind presages me such thrift that I should questionless be fortunate. He says, Bassanio reveals about his lady love, and he says, in Belmont there is a lady who has inherited much riches. She is beautiful, and more than that, she has wonderful personal qualities. At times, I have received from her eyes lovely and silent messages. Her name is Portia, and she is no less wonderful than was the daughter of Cato, who was the wife of Brutus. This is another Portia. He says that his lady love Portia is equally wondrous as the daughter of Cato, who was the wife of Brutus. Indeed, her merit is known throughout the wide world. See, in the civil war between Pompey and Caesar, he supported Pompey and was defeated by Caesar. Brutus, husband of Portia, was the chief of the conspirators against Caesar and caused his assassination. They are referred to show here that Portia of Belmont is as precious and great as Cato's daughter Portia. Indeed, her merit is known throughout the wide world, for famous suitors are wind-born. See, because Portia is a very beautiful lady, her suitors are wind carried her suitors, means the suitors are from very distant places towards her from every land. Her bright hair overhangs her forehead like the golden fleece of story, so that her home at Belmont has become like the ancient kingdom of Colchis, and many a Jason comes there to attempt to win her. Oh, Antonio, had I but the means to take my place as a competitor with them. He is one among the competitors. I have a feeling that promises me such good fortune that I should doubtlessly be the winner. He says, the passage says that Portia's fame had spread throughout the world, and suitors from every part of the world come to Belmont to win her hand in marriage. And there is a reference of Jason here, and Jason was a Greek hero who was sent by Peleus, his uncle, who had usurped the throne, to fetch the golden fleece from Colchis. In Greek mythology, golden fleece is referred to as the fleece of winged ram. It was kept at an oak tree in a grove sacred to god Ares and guarded by a dragon in Colchis. Bassanio compares Portia to the golden fleece, and himself in his quest for Portia to Jason on his voyage to fetch the golden fleece. He refers to other suitors such as Jason's. Bassanio's description of Portia in the reopening scene reveals that she is a paragon among women. She is rich and beautiful with golden hair. She has wonderful mental qualities and is virtuous as well. Her fame has attracted suitors from all over the world. She is in no way inferior to her namesake, Cato's daughter and Brutus' wife. Then Antonio, thou knowest that all my fortunes are at sea, neither have I money nor commodity to raise a present sum. Therefore go forth, try what my credit can in Venice do, that shall be racked even to the uttermost to furnish thee to Belmont, to fair Portia, Go presently inquire, and so will I, where money is, and I no question make to have it of my trust or for my sake. And Antonio says that to Bassanio that you know that all my money is invested in trading ventures at sea. I have no ready money nor any possessions on which money can be raised. But go out and see what my credit can raise in Venice. It shall be stretched to the utmost limit to equip you for Belmont to win fair Portia. Go and inquire at once, and I shall do the same. Wherever money is to be had, and I have no doubt that I shall get it, either because of my business credit or for personal reasons. Now Antonio is unable to help Bassanio at once, since he has no money in hand, as all his business ventures are at sea. And see, even though he says that however he will raise the money of this 3,000 ducats. It was required urgently for Bassanio to go to Belmont and present himself before Portia as a worthy suitor. And here Antonio instructs Bassanio to find out a merchant who is ready to give him money against his name. He says the phrase, look at the phrase, that shall be racked even to the uttermost. The credit shall be stretched to the utmost limit. Antonio says that he is ready to stretch the credit as far as to equip Bassanio to go to Belmont to woo Portia. And he says either on the security of his name or from feelings of personal friendship, somehow he go and search how can he raise money. And at the end of the scene, Act 1, Scene 1, at the end, Antonio asks Bassanio to borrow money on his credit. Antonio assures him that he will stand at the surety, and Bassanio can borrow money on his surety. Here we can understand the bond of friendship between Antonio and Bassanio. In this scene, Shakespeare mainly deals with the love between Antonio and Bassanio, and Bassanio's love towards Portia, and also in the about Antonio's melancholy. This is the end of the Act 1, Scene 1.